The stranger stood quietly in the center of Amora's compound as villagers gathered around. His eyes rested on her swollen stomach, then on the small calabash beside her mouth where the herbs were kept. "Who gave this woman these herbs?" he asked again. No one answered at first. Amora, weak and tired, slowly raised her hand. "My husband," she whispered. "He told me to drink them every morning so the baby would wait until he returned from trading." The stranger's face grew serious. "How long have you been drinking them?" Amora lowered her eyes. "For many years." A loud murmur spread through the crowd. The stranger picked up the calabash and smelled the herbs carefully. His expression changed immediately. "These are not herbs meant to delay childbirth," he said slowly. "They are herbs meant to stop labor completely." The entire compound fell silent. "What do you mean?" one of the elders asked. "If a pregnant woman drinks this for too long," the stranger continued, "the child will never come out naturally. The body will hold the baby inside, year after year." The villagers gasped. Amora felt the ground spin beneath her. "But, my husband said it would protect the baby," she said weakly. The stranger shook his head. No loving husband would give this to his wife. The crowd erupted into angry whispers. "Where is this husband? Why would he do such a thing?" Just then, an old trader who often traveled between villages stepped forward. "I may know something," he said slowly. All eyes turned toward him. "I have seen a man who looks like Amora's husband in another village many times. At first I thought nothing of it. Traders travel often." But he was not trading. The crowd leaned closer. "He lives there," the trader continued. "With another woman." A shocked cry escaped from the villagers. Amora's heart pounded loudly in her ears. "That is impossible," she said weakly. "My husband travels there for business." The trader shook his head sadly. "He has a house there. And children." The words struck Amora like thunder. "Children? How many?" one woman asked urgently. "3, the trader answered. The villagers began shouting in anger. "That wicked man! He deceived her. But why would he stop his own wife from giving birth?" The stranger who examined the herb spoke again. "The answer is simple," he said. "If Amora gives birth, she becomes the respected mother of his first child. In our tradition, the first wife who bears a child holds great honor. Perhaps he wanted that honor for the other woman." The crowd fell into heavy silence as the truth settled over them. For years, Amora had been slowly poisoned with lies. Her husband had never been traveling for trade. He had been living another life. While she waited faithfully, drinking the bitter herbs he gave her, he was raising children with another woman. Tears rolled down Amora's face as the reality crushed her heart. "All this time," she whispered, "I believed him." One of the village elders stood up angrily. "This injustice cannot continue," he declared. "Send messengers to the neighboring village. Bring this man back immediately." 2 young men left that very night. 3 days later, they returned with Chaik. He walked into the village square confidently at first, but his face turned pale when he saw the angry crowd waiting. Amora sat weakly under the shade of a tree, her enormous stomach resting heavily in her lap. When Chaik saw her, guilt flashed across his face. "What is happening here?" he asked nervously. The elder stepped forward. "Your secret has been revealed." Chaik froze. "You told your wife to drink herbs that stopped her from giving birth for years," the elder continued. "And while she suffered, you were building another family in another village." The crowd erupted into furious shouts. Chaik fell to his knees. I never meant for it to go this far," he stammered. But Amora looked at him with eyes filled not with anger, but deep sorrow. "For 13 years, she said quietly, I carried your child and believed your lies. The villagers watched in silence. Because now the greatest question remained. After drinking those herbs for so many years, would Amora ever be able to give birth? Or had her husband's betrayal destroyed both her life and the child she had waited for 5 long years to conceive? And the answer would change the fate of the entire village forever. The village square was silent after Amora spoke. The wind moved softly through the tall palm trees, but no one dared to speak. Chike remained on his knees, shaking with fear. The truth of his betrayal had finally come to light, and the anger of the villagers burned like fire. But all eyes slowly turned back to Amora. She looked weaker than ever. Her once beautiful face had become pale and thin. The years of pain had drained the strength from her body. Even sitting upright seemed difficult for her now. The village midwife rushed forward and knelt beside her, placing a hand on her stomach. Amora winced in pain. "My bones feel like they are breaking," she whispered softly. "My ribs, my back, everything hurts." The midwife's face grew worried. She looked up at the elders. "This child has stayed too long," she said quietly. "Her body cannot carry this burden anymore." The stranger who had discovered the truth about the herb stepped forward. "For many years those herbs have stopped her body from doing what it should have done naturally," he explained. "Her organs are weak. Her bones have suffered from the weight of the child." Amora closed her eyes slowly. "I only wanted to be a mother," she whispered. Tears rolled down the faces of many women in the crowd. They remembered how happy Amora had once been, how proudly she had walked through the village admiring her growing stomach. How she had waited patiently for her husband to return. Now that hope had turned into suffering. Suddenly Amora cried out in pain. Her body trembled violently. The midwife quickly tried to help her, but it was too late. Years of carrying the unborn child had destroyed her strength. Her body could no longer fight. The villagers watched helplessly as her breathing became slower and slower. With one final weak breath, Amora whispered something softly. "My child." Then her head fell gently to the side. Amora was gone. A deep cry of sorrow rose from the women of the village. Some fell to their knees in grief. Others covered their faces and wept openly. The elders stood silently, their hearts heavy with anger and sadness. All this suffering, all these years, had been caused by one man's selfish deception. Slowly, every eye turned toward Chike. He stared at Amora's lifeless body in horror. "What have I done?" he whispered. But it was too late. The eldest man in the village stepped forward, his voice firm with judgment. "This woman suffered for 13 years because of your greed and betrayal," he declared. "You robbed her of motherhood, robbed her of her life, and robbed this village of an innocent child." The villagers began to murmur with rage. "In our land," the elder continued, "such evil cannot go unpunished." The crowd moved closer around Chike. Fear filled his eyes. "Please," he cried. "Have mercy." But the pain in the hearts of the villagers was too deep. One man picked up a stone. Then another. Soon the entire crowd stood with stones in their hands. Chike screamed and begged for forgiveness. But the memory of Amora's suffering burned in their minds. The first stone flew. Then another. Within moments, the punishment was carried out, and the man who had destroyed his wife's life met the judgment of the village. When it was over, silence returned once again. The elders ordered that Amora be buried with honor. The women of the village washed her body gently, dressing her in beautiful white cloth. Even in death, her face looked peaceful, as if her long suffering had finally ended. The villagers buried her beneath the great mango tree where she had once loved to sit and admire her stomach. The story of Amora spread far beyond Umudora. It became a warning whisper to husbands and wives across many villages. A reminder that betrayal, lies, and selfishness can destroy lives. And whenever the wind passes through the mango tree, The elders say it carries the memory of a woman who only wanted one thing in life: to hold her child. The end.